All right, good morning. All right, so this hopefully will last no later than an hour and 30 minutes, but we will see. Again, please make sure you are muted as you log in, and remember, before you mute yourself, anything you say can be heard by everyone on here. Make sure you complete the sign-in sheet for today's meeting. Link is located in the chat box area. And then for this meeting, you will need to log into ANet and also the ANet Canvas course. All right, so you're going to be doing both. All right, so let's look at what you should be able to do at the end of this session. So by the end of this meeting, you'll be able to know the window for ELA Reading Fluency, and that will be from August 15th to September 30th. And it is only for selected students in grades 4 through 10, and that's part of the implementation plan that we're going to look at. You're going to understand the fluency implementation plan. You're going to know where it's located in the ANet Canvas course. You're going to know where the video is located for the fluency implementation plan. And you will note that the sample video of an administration is provided using the link document in the implementation plan. Number 3, you will know where to obtain the fluency materials in ANet. 4, you will know how to complete the scoring documents. 5, you will know how to access the Google form to input student data, and that is located in the ANet Canvas course. And 6, you will know where the 3 videos are located for understanding and administering the reading fluency. And these videos should be shared with anyone who will be administering the fluency assessment. All right, so that's what we're going to end up covering in today's session. So first thing I want to do is let's go to the ANet dashboard. So in ANet, when you log into ANet, the materials will be found under Manage Assessments. So when you go to Manage Assessments, and let me go to a school, let me just go to a middle school, I'm going to go to Capital Middle. When you go to Manage Assessments, okay, so maybe nothing's showing up. Let's go back and refresh. Okay, so I had to go back and refresh. So what I did was I went to the address bar, highlighted it, and then I just refreshed, and then notice the tab showed up. So if it doesn't show up, make sure you just do that. Just go highlight the address bar, refresh, and hopefully it will show up. Okay, so it's always defaults to ELA. And since we're talking about reading fluency, let's leave it as ELA. The Cross Network Online ELA 22-23, that is your interims, fall assessment, winter, spring, and summer. You want to use the drop-down menu to get to the Reading Fluency Diagnostic Online. And then notice Materials for Assessment 5 will show up. So you click on that tab, and then these are the materials. All right, so we're going to come back to this in a little while. In the ANet Canvas course, when you go to the Canvas course and you go to the home page, there's some right here on the far right. On the far right is where you're going to find the EBR reading fluency information. Right below that is the office hours. So when you go to the office hours that we had Tuesday, the agenda and the recording's located there. So today's recording will be here as well. So that's where the office hours materials will be located. Let me scroll back. All right. So again, this is on the far right in the table. This is the reading fluency information, and then the office hours. The other thing you need to be aware of is that the task to be performed by ANet coordinators and backup is located here. So when you click on this, you'll notice all the tasks that were assigned to you. So you should have already done tasks 1, 2, and 3. Many of you have already done task 4. Task 4 is the content of those videos we're going to look at today. But some of you have already gone through those videos. And then yesterday, I sent you tasks 5 and 6. Some of you probably still don't have, and this was for math diagnostics, some of you probably still don't have the students uploaded. Just check again sometime today. They said it should all be uploaded by tomorrow morning. I know it's cutting it close, but you're at the hands of ANet. All right, so that's task 5 and task 6. All right, so far you have 6 tasks that you will have to complete by the end of this week. All right, so let's go back to the home page, and I'm going to go back to this link that says go here to access the resources needed for the reading fluency information. So when you click on this, number 1 is the reading fluency implementation plan. We're going to look at that in a little while. The links here that says part 1, part 2, and part 3, those are the videos that I sent you probably the beginning of this week, maybe, or at the end of last week. So those are the 3 videos. Some of you have already gone through those. And then 5 and 6 is the data tracker. So that's where you're going to get the Google form to input the data for the reading fluency. So this is where all the material will be located, the implementation plan and the data tracker. And then these are the videos. All right, so before I go on, are there any questions at this point with what I just said? Okay, now let's go to, make sure you unmute yourself, okay, please. If anyone can find out who's not muted, you can mute them for me. All right, let's now go to the materials. So these are the materials. So I'm going to click on, let's say, 6th grade right here. So it says 6th grade. If you're in an elementary, depending on your grade configuration, you will have, let me just kind of show you. Let's just go to an elementary. I'm going to go to Capital Elementary. And remember, we need to go to the diagnostics, so do the drop-down menu, materials for assessment 5, and then Capital Elementary has grades 3, 4, and 5. Now remember, reading fluency is only for grades for elementary. For Capital Elementary, it would be for grades 4 and 5. So remember, we don't do ANet reading fluency for grade 3. For grade 3, remember, we do dibbles. So for ANet reading fluency, it's only for grades 4 through 10. All right, so even though it appears grade 3, even though it appears for Capital Elementary will not be doing grade 3 ANet reading fluency. So let's go to, let's say, the scoring document for grade 4, since I'm here. So it's going to download at the bottom left. You're going to just open it up, and then this is the materials that you're going to need. So the materials are located in ANet. So you're going to see the link. Let me go ahead and expand it. You're going to see the link for the text, the link for administration directions for the teacher, and then the text and scoring form for the teacher. So if I click on the text for the student, this is the text that you're going to give the student, and the student will read from this text. Do not, if you have 100 students that you need to assess, don't print 100 of these. All you need is just a handful to give to the individuals doing the assessing to give to a student. The students can share this with each other. All right, so there's no need to print 100 of these. Now when you scroll down, now notice that for this grade, there's only one page for the passage. There are some grade levels where the passage appears on 2 pages. All right, now here are the directions. We're going to come back to the directions in a little while. These are the directions. It's 2 pages, and this is what the person doing the assessing will need. Now listen carefully. You will have to, if you have 100 students that you're assessing, you're going to have to print 100 of these, because the person doing the assessing is going to have to determine, is going to have to strike through every word that the student mispronounced, skipped, things like that. So you are going to have to print one of these for every student being assessed. So that the assessor will use this. Notice the words of the at the last column here indicates the word at the end of that sentence. So the first sentence has 18 words. The first two sentences has 35 words. The first three sentences have 55, and so on. You're going to have to do a comprehension score for that student. You're going to need one for each student because the assessor has to write the notes here. So these are the notes that the student is going to answer these questions. The assessor is going to indicate the notes, and then the person doing the assessing will determine the comprehension rating based on these numbers. So we'll come back to this in a little while as well. So remember, you're going to do a comprehension for that student based on what they recall from the passage they read. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do, and we're going to come back to this as well, you're going to determine the Accumulativity scoring. And Accumulativity is words read correctly per minute. And we're going to do an example when we get to this. So Accumulativity is words read correctly per minute. All right, and then there's a computation that you're going to have to do for grades 4 through 8. And we'll mention this again this as we go through this, but for grades 4 through 8 only, you're also going to have to determine the student's percentile range. 9 and 10 will not do that because when you look at these norms, I'm going to click on this link right here, and you look at these norms. Let me scroll up. So these are the percentile ranges. These are the grade levels. The fall words correct per minute, CPM means words correct per minute. That's the one you're going to use for the diagnostic. But when you scroll down and look at high school, there's no percentiles here. So for high school, grades 9 and 10, you will not do the percentile part. You'll still do the Accumulativity because you can determine words correct per minute, but you'll not do the percentile. Okay, so let me go back. And let's see, let me scroll back down and expand this. All right, so again, Accumulativity will only be done for grades 4 through 8. High school, Accumulativity, that scoring here will be done for all grades 4 through 10, but the percentile range will only be done for grades 4 through 8. Okay? Then you're going to do the Prostate Scoring. And in the video I created for you, I told you the definition of prosody in that video. But prosody measures each of those things that you see here. It measures the student's expression and volume as they read. It measures their phrasing as they read. It measures the smoothness and the pace. And for each of those parts here, you're going to have to determine a score, whether it's a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. And then you're going to add up each one of those scores, and that's what you get the total here. And you're going to put that total in the Google form. And we're going to go over that again in a little while. Then, for grades 4 through 8 only, you're going to determine the overall fluency rating. High school, you will not determine the overall fluency rating for grades 9 and 10 because for Accumulativity, there is no percentile ranges for high school. So overall fluency rating will be determined only for grades 4 through 8. And they give examples here. And we're going to look at another example as we go through this. And we also have some of the literacy department members that are in this call, so they'll be able to answer more if you have any questions about the overall fluency rating part. And that is it. All right, so let's go back over this as to what you will have to capture. All right, so you are going to print, if you have 100 students, don't print 100 of the text for the student. Just print a handful so that way the assessor can give that page to the student and read. Remember, this is one-on-one, by the way. So one-on-one, you bring in a student, you do the assessing. Bring in another student, do the assessing. Bring in another student, do the assessing. It is one-on-one. So that's why you have this long window. You have over a month and a half to do this. You have until September 30th. Okay, so you're gonna give this sheet to the student. Then we're gonna come back and look at the directions here. And then, as the student is reading the passage, the person doing the assessing will strike through any word that's mispronounced or overlooked, and we'll come back to that as well. All of you are going to have to do comprehension, grades 4 through 10, comprehension. You're going to have to do a comprehension score rating and put that in a Google form. All of you will do an Accmeticity score. Remember, Accmeticity is words correct per minute. Only grades 4 through 8, though, will do the percentile range also. All of you will do a prosody scoring. And then only grades 4 through 8 will do an overall fluency rating. Okay? All right. And I'm going to call on someone, and please, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. All right, so I'm going to call on someone real quick. Let's see. Amber Daringsborg. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Amber. All right, Amber, what grade level are you? Is your school?
Elementary.
Okay. Amber, I'm going to ask you this question. For Accmeticity scoring, are you going to, for your grade level and your elementary, are you going to have to do a percentile range for each of those students?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Very good. Yes, so only grades 4 through 8 will do a percentile range for each student. Let's see. Bernadette Joyner. Bernadette, can you hear me? All right, Bernadette's not answering. Carrie Barber. Carrie Barber. All right. Edris Lodge. All right. So I'm hoping that y'all just don't log in and leave, right? Because Amber.
Mr. Dozak,
yes.
Carrie Barber is in the chat. She doesn't have a mic on her computer, but she said she is here.
Okay, who's speaking? Oh, Amy. Thank you, Amy. All right, so who's that? Carrie Barber? All right, Carrie, I'm going to ask you a question. For overall fluency, and put the answer in the chat, please. For overall fluency, which grade levels will have to do overall fluency rating? Carrie? In the chat, Carrie, I need you to tell me, for overall fluency, which grade levels will have to do overall fluency rating?
I'll answer for 4 through 8.
Thank you, Michelin. And Carrie Barber eventually answered. All right, so 4 through 8. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Michelin. I appreciate it. All right, so now let's go over these directions. I want to go over these directions. Let me find where these directions are located. All right, so listen carefully as you go over this. All right, administering directions for the teacher, and it could anyone in the assessing team. All right, have each of the following materials ready. You're going to need a hard copy text for the student to read. You're going to need a hard copy text in the scoring document that you, either the teacher or anyone in the assessment team, will use. You're going to need a timer or stopwatch, and you're going to need a pen or pencil for scoring. Next bullet. You're going to find a quiet area in which you can sit one-on-one with the student who is taking the reading diagnostic. Make sure it is in an area in which the student can concentrate and will not be disrupted by excess noise or other disturbances. And the reason for that is the comprehension part. So you're going to be asking the student questions, and the student's going to have to answer based on recall. So the student needs to be concentrating. Now, the bullet under here is for EBR virtual. So if you're administering the diagnostic virtually by video conference or phone call, make sure the student has access to a hard copy or electronic version of the text and that you can hear each other well and will not be disrupted. Next bullet. Once the student is seated comfortably, read the following directions to the student. I will give you a text to read out loud for 2 minutes. Then you will have the opportunity to read the text again, either silently or out loud, and then I will ask you a couple of questions about what you have read. This has helped me plan for teaching this year. You will not get a grade for this. So that's going to be part of the comprehension. Then virtually, EBR virtual, you're going to say, you're going to make these statements. All right, then the next bullet says this. Ask the student if there are any questions, and once all questions have been answered, move on to the next direction. And then here's the next direction. Give the student version of the text to the student and say, here's the text you will read. You can begin reading out loud to me when I say start. And then you read in your normal reading voice. EBR virtual, you'll say this. Next bullet. Tell the student to start and then start the timer when you do so. On the teacher version of the text, make a line through any word that the student reads incorrectly, either mispronounces, skips, replaces with another word. If the student corrects the mistake, note with a C above the word, and then count this word as correct when scoring. So let me just kind of show you real quick an example. So look at this real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this. Maybe this is too big. Let me do 150. All right, so see how you have these little words here? See this right here? Oops. Okay. All right. All right, it's supposed to highlight, it's not. But anyway, so see the little the words that are struck out? Those are incorrect words. If the student corrects himself, see this C right here? Right here, with the word places, and I put a C above it. That means the student corrected himself. It's counted as correct. Okay? All right. So in any incorrect word, you're going to strike out. If the student corrects himself, you're going to put a C. And a C is counted as correct. All right. So that's what I mean by that. All right. Any questions at this point? All right. Very simple. It's not a difficult process. The only challenge is that, the part of the directions tells the student to read in their normal voice. Some of them can be reading very quickly, and so the person doing the assessing has to listen very carefully, and we'll go through this pretty quick as a student is reading. But the student's supposed to read in their normal voice. All right, next bullet right here. If a student stops at a word and does not continue after 3 seconds, tell the student the word and then instruct the student to continue reading. At exactly 2 minutes, so this is only for 2 minutes, at exactly 2 minutes, stop the timer and make a note on the text where the student was when the time ended. If a student finishes before 2 minutes, note at the end of the text the time at which the student finished. You would note it as 107 seconds for 1 minute 47 seconds if the student finished in 1 minute 47 seconds. Now, just to let you know, on the Google form, you're going to have to list it in seconds. So you're going to need to convert 1 minute 47 seconds to 107. All right, so just know that on the Google form, it has to be in seconds and not minutes and seconds. So let me kind of show you what that would look like. All right, so let's go back. So this is student A, and just some advice here when writing the student's information right here, make sure you put the grade level, because nowhere on this form is the grade level indicated. So when your literacy team, your literacy coach, the literacy department, or the instructional team at your school goes back and tries to determine how to help students who are struggling with fluency and comprehension, they're going to need to know that this text was a grade 7 text. So put the grade level there, and then the teacher that the student belongs to, and then that's the date of the assessment. All right, so the grade level should be used here. All right, so when you scroll down, so the student reads, and the student at 2 minutes, remember 2 minutes is 120 seconds. So at 2 minutes, the student stopped at the word provided, and also the student missed that word, so there's a strike through it. Indicate with a bracket where that student ended. Indicate with a bracket where that student ended, and then make sure you put the seconds here. So the student took the whole 2 minutes, and this is where they stopped. All right, the other example, and that's student B. Notice the grade level, the teacher, and the date. The student, in this case, I want to show you, in this case, the student read the whole passage. Student read the whole passage in less than 2 minutes. So the student went to the last word of the passage, the word highway, still indicate with a bracket. This is where the student ended. It took the student 100 seconds. So 1 minute, 40 seconds, 100 seconds. Okay, so any questions at this point? All right, so that's that timing convention. So let's go back. And so we're on this bullet right here, the one about the minutes. So remember, the maximum minutes is 2 minutes. All right, the next bullet, tell the student, thank you. Now you can read the text again silently or out loud so you can learn as much as you can from it. When you're finished, I'll ask you about the text. So this is where the student's going to read the text silently. They can read it out loud, and then you're going to ask some questions to determine their comprehension. So that's where that comprehension part comes in. So allow the student to read, and then the next bullet. When the student has finished reading, say, now I'll ask you about what you just read. Please answer without looking back at the text. Then ask the following questions and note the student responses in the scoring document. The purpose of this is to get a quick read on the student's understanding of the text. And here are the questions you're going to read. What do you remember about what you just read? What else do you remember? If the student is not responding, you can ask, what was this text about? What else can you tell me about the text? So that's that comprehension part. And then the next bullet, once the student has shared all responses, collect the text back from the student and tell the student the exercise is complete and that the student can go back to the class assignment, etc. And then you complete the scoring section. You're going to put all the data into the Google form. We'll come back and show you where that is. And then you reset the timer and then go into the next student. Now, you don't have to put all that in the Google form right away, because remember, you have this text for each individual student. So at the end of the day, if that's what you plan to do, then you go to the Google form and you enter the data for each student. But the information will be Let me just scroll down. The information will be all here for you to put in the Google form. All right, and then remember, it's one-on-one for each student. So once you're done with one student, you go to the next. So any questions on that part so far? Anyone? All right. Now, here's the comprehension. So for the comprehension, the questions are located here. What do you remember about what you just read? What else do you remember? If a student is not responding, you can ask, what was this text about? What else can you tell me about the text? So you put all the notes here. It is very important that you list what the student is indicating, stating, because that's going to be important for your instructional team, the literacy team, your literacy coach, to further help any student that has deficiencies in fluency and read and comprehension. For based on what the student stated, you're going to do a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. So a 1, the student has no recall or minimal recall of only a small number of unrelated facts of varied importance from the passage. 2, student recalls the main idea of the passage with a few or some supporting details. 3, the student recalls and states the main idea along with a fairly robust set of supporting details presented in at least a somewhat logical or sequential order, and the highest rating is a 4. Student recall is a comprehensive summary of the passage presented in a logical order and or a robust set of details and includes a statement of main idea. Student may also make reasonable connections beyond the text so as to student's own personal life or another text. So you're going to give a 1, 2, 3, 4. If for some reason the person doing the assessing based on these statements the student made is having difficulty determining between a 3 or 4, a 2 or 3, and so on, that's where the literacy coach at your school comes in. So get with the literacy coach to kind of determine whether it should be a 3 or 4, a 2 or 3, or a 1 or a 2, based on this information here. Note at the bottom, at the beginning of the year, it is not unusual for a student to be at a level 2 or below for grade level passage. All right, so that's the comprehension part. Okay, now let's talk about how to determine the Accmeticity score. I'm going to, and if we don't have a literacy coach, Amy Edwards, can you answer that question, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Jessica, if you don't have a literacy coach, we do have district literacy coaches assigned to each region. And so the district coach will be coming by the school to check in with the leadership team there to support you. Jessica, what school are you located at?
I'm at Baton Rouge Center.
Okay, Baton Rouge Center.
BRCVPA.
Yes, I'm looking for it right now. Okay, yep. So we have Miss Andrea Johnson is going to be checking in with you sometime before next Friday. We're visiting all of our schools in the next week and a half. She'll be checking in at your school with your team, and so she can answer any questions that you have, and she'll be giving her contact information to the leadership there.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you a classroom teacher, Jessica?
I am not. I am just the school test coordinator.
Okay, I'm going to give her your name and have her make sure that she checks in with you when she comes by.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so Amy, there's some others. So what I want to do, and that could be many others. I see Woodlawn High, Marydale. Is there any way you can share the document with me and I could put in the Canvas course?
I don't want to share the whole document out, but what I can do, and this is the same answer for everyone, if you are a coordinator, a test coordinator at your site, just post in the chat that you're a coordinator and you don't have a coach, and I'll write your name down and I will give the names to all of the coaches assigned and have them check in with you specifically. They won't come check in with classroom teachers, but if you are a coordinator, they can come and check in with you.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So go ahead, if you don't have a literacy coach, put your, in the chat area, indicate that the school and that you don't have a literacy coach. Thanks, Amy. All right, so let's talk about how to determine the Acmeticity. All right, so let me go to an example. All right, so listen carefully to this, and it's very simple. All right, so we're going to look at this example here. So I'm scrolling down to Acmeticity. All right, so for this example, I have 174. So the total words read, whether it's incorrect or correct, okay? 174. So let me show you where I got this. So going back to the passage where the assessor was indicating which words were correct or incorrect, notice right here, the student stopped at the word provided, right? At the end of the sentence, if the student had read all those words in that sentence, it would have been 175. So you can see that there's one word the student did not get to. So therefore, all of these words, when counted together, is 174. So 175 minus this one is 174. So that's what goes here. Let me go quickly to it. That's what goes here. So total words read. Then you have to determine the number of words read incorrectly. All right, so let's talk about that. All right. All right. So number of words read incorrectly. For each word that has a strike through it, Leslie Fleet, what does that mean? Leslie, if I have a strike through it, like you see here, what does that mean?
It means that they were mispronounced.
Okay, or they skipped it, something like that.
Or
Now,
they skipped it,
yep,
did something.
very good.
Doesn't count.
Right. Now, Leslie, there's a strike here with the C. Does that count as a correct word or an incorrect word?
The C stands for correct, Michael.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Leslie. All right, so let's count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't count this one. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So that's where the 10 comes from. So 10 goes here. So then you're going to determine the number of words read correctly. So the number of words read correctly would be 174, subtract 10 is 164. Now you determine the Acmeticity. So remember, Acmeticity is words read correctly per minute. All right, so you're going to notice it says right here, in this little first blank here, you're going to put the words read correctly. Well, the words read correctly is 164. Divided by the number of seconds it took the student to read the passage. So that's where you have to go back, and that's why it was important that the person doing the assessing lists the seconds here. So it took 120 seconds, the full 2 minutes. Okay, so then you come back, and this is where a calculator is needed, and all cell phones have a calculator, so don't say, if an assessor comes to you and say, I can't determine this part here because I don't have a calculator, tell them to use their cell phone. So when you do that, you're going to say 164 divided by 120, and then multiply that by 60 because you need to convert that to this whole thing to minutes. So there's 60 seconds in a minute. So that's where that 60 comes from. 60 seconds in a minute. So times 60, and you get exactly 82. So 82 would be the number of words read correctly per minute. So for every minute, the student read 82 words correctly. Okay? All right, any questions on that computation? Very simple. Okay? Now, listen carefully. Grades 4 through 8, you're then going to have to determine the student's percentile range. Okay? So this is where, and let me go back to the link. See, this is just a PDF. So let me just go back to the link where that's located. So this link here. So this is where you're going to have to go into this. And this was grade 7 that I was looking at. Okay, so listen carefully as I go through this. Let me go ahead and expand this. All right. So this is grade 7. Remember, this column here is your percentile column. And for the diagnostic, you're going to use this column here. So that's the one that said fall words correct per minute. All right, so this is where you'll need to listen to because of the way it's in this table. So if the student reads 185 or more words correct per minute, in other words, if this number here, right here, this number is words correct per minute, so that's at 82, so that's what you're going to be looking for. All right, so this is grade 7. So 180 or above words correct per minute, then the percentile would be above 90, above 90th percentile. If the words correct per minute is between 156 to 179, then the percentile will be between 75th and 90th. If the words correct per minute is 128 to 155, then the percentile will be 50th to 75. If the words correct per minute is 102 to 127, then it'll be 25th to 50th percentile. And then if it's 79 to 101, it'll be 10th to 25th percentile. And if the words correct per minute is below 79, so 78 or below, you're going to say below 10th percentile. So when I come back to that 82, remember that 82? The student words correct per minute is 82. So that's why you see between 10th and 25th, because when I go to this part here, 82 is between 79 and 101, 102 rather. You see 10th to 25th percentile. Okay, let's look at another example real quick. All right, so let's go to this one. All right, so this one. All right, so for this one, the number of seconds is 100. And the student read all of the text. Remember, all the text. So that's where you see that 340 right here. So the student read all the text. That's 340 words in 100 seconds. Remember, you have to count the number of words read incorrectly. So 1, 2, this is correct. 3, correct. 4, incorrect. So 4 incorrect so far. 5, 6, and 7. So then you go down to the section of Accumulativity. So I forgot how many I said. I said there were 7, I think. Let me go back. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And 340 words altogether. All right. So go down here. So total words read, 340. Words read incorrectly, 7. You subtract those, 333 is what you get for the number of words read correctly. Then you have to determine the Accmeticity. All right, now, so remember this blank here is words read correctly. So 333 divided by the number of seconds, which was 100. But you have to convert that to minutes, so there's 60 seconds in a minute. And so you say 333 divided by 100 times 60, and you actually get 199.8. Just go ahead and round down. So truncate the decimal. Just put 199. Okay? All right. And then you locate in the table. So let's go to the table. And this is still grade 7. So I'm going back to the table. So it was like 199 I said? All right. So 199 is above 180, so that's above the 90th percentile, and that is what you put here, above 90th. See right here? Okay. All right. So any questions on determining the Accmeticity scoring? It's a very simple process, not difficult at all. Okay. What you're probably when you do your training with the individuals doing the assessing team. That's on the assessment team. Just make sure you explain to them how to read this. So 156 to 179, the percentile will be between 75th and 90th. All right, so just make sure you explain that. And it's also in that other video, so if you just want to share that video that I gave y'all earlier this week, it's all in there. And you really should, they really should look at all those 3 videos. Okay. All right, so any questions on that? Okay. Okay, now, so that's Accumulativity scoring. Percentile, remember percentile ranges is only going to be done by grades 4 through 8, not 9 and 10. Then you're going to determine the Prostate Scoring. So the Prostate Scoring will be based on everything that occurs in this session with the student. So remember, prosody measures expression and volume, phrasing, smoothness, and pace. So this needs to be done right after you do the assessing with the student. Don't wait until later that evening to do this, because you will not recall a lot of things that happen with that student. So it must be done at that point. So, and I don't want to read all of this, but I'll read some. So if you look at expression and volume, if you give the student a 1, it means this: the student reads in a quiet voice as if to get words out. The reading does not sound natural, like talking to a friend. If you give the student a 2, then you're indicating this: the student reads in a quiet voice. The reading sounds natural in part of the text, but the reader does not always sound like they are talking to a friend. And then so on. If you look at phrasing, if you give the student a 2 for phrasing, you're indicating this: the student reads in 2 or 3 word phrases, not adhering to punctuation, stress, and intonation. If you give the student a 3, you're indicating that the student reads with a mixture of run-ons, mid-sentence pauses for breath, and some choppiness. There is reasonable stress and intonation. If you do the same thing with smoothness and the same thing with pace. So for pace, see I have circled, and these are just some examples I put. For pace, I put that this student reads at a conversational pace throughout the reading. All right, so notice those 3 things I have circled. So expression and volume, I circled this one here. The student reads with volume and expression. However, sometimes the student slips into expressionless reading and does not sound like they are talking to a friend. So that's 3 points right there. So anything in this column is 3 points. Anything circled in this column will be 4 points. Anything circled in this column is 2 points. And anything circled in this column is 1 point. So to get the total, right here, you have to do a total of all those 4 parts of prosody. You're going to add up 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 gives you 13. And notice what it says: scores of 10 or more indicate that the student is making good progress in fluency. Scores below 10 indicate the student needs additional instruction in fluency. Okay? All right. Any questions at this point? Okay, so let me go to chat real quick. So Sharon Jones wants to know, this may have been answered, but will we have the same sheets form for reporting that automatically finds range? So at some point I'll come back and answer that, but we're putting all this information in a Google form. So the Google form will not automatically determine the percentile range. So that's why you had to go here and use this information. But the spreadsheet that was used last year is still there. So if you want to use that spreadsheet just to compute the percentile range, you can. It's just extra work. It's very simple just to get to this link and determine which one it is. just by that number. I would not go to that to that spreadsheet from last year and just to input numbers just to have it do it for you. It's just more work on the person doing the assessing. But that is my opinion. If you want your teachers to go to that spreadsheet to do that extra stuff, that's fine. But it's not necessary. It's very easy to read this part here to get the percentile. All right, so let me see what else. Amy Edwards, say note the data. Okay, thank you, Amy. Genevieve Bajra says it seems a bit subjective. Well, it could be. So that's why if you're Genevieve, if you're the person the assessing needs a little bit more clarification, the literacy coach is available. Chantel Mark, Michael, can you drop the Google link again, please? The Google link to what? I'm not understanding. You're talking about the sign-in sheet? If it's a sign-in sheet, I can definitely do that, but I'm not sure what you're referring to when you indicate Google link. Genevieve Bashra had discrepancies among the administrations last year in the Prostate Scoring. Ms. Bajra, you have a literacy coach at your school. That's why it's important that if you feel there are some discrepancies with certain things, you need to get with the literacy coach to kind of get those teachers together to come to a consensus. You have your literacy coach this year. Use your literacy coach. The district is paying a lot of money for those literacy coaches. Use them. Sharon Jones, I just like the easy access to the scores for our 504 and SBLC coordinators. Okay, that's fine, Sharon. Amy Edwards replied to Genevieve. Okay, all right, so that's where we're at. Okay, so let's go now to the next part. All right, so Genevieve mentioned the idea of some of this being subjective. And to a certain extent, that is true. It is important that if a teacher's not sure, they need to speak with the literacy coach, or if they don't have a literacy coach, the person that Amy talked earlier about the district level person. For me, personally, if I were doing this, I would probably have more difficulty with the overall fluency rating part, because it doesn't always fall very nicely down here. You could have a high here, a medium here, and a low here. So you could have something all over the place in this little part here for a student. And if I were struggling with this part here, determining which of these overall fluency rating I would give to a student, that's where I would discuss that with someone who's knowledgeable about literacy, about reading literacy. All right, so let's go over this example here, the overall fluency rating. For the comprehension, Accmeticity, and Prostate scores captured above, circle the appropriate box in the table below for each column, and then select the overall fluency rating at the rightmost column, right here. So to give some examples. Now those two examples that you see here are very straightforward. Okay, for example, student 1. So student 1 is a grade 4 student with a comprehension of 4. All right, so here's my comprehension column. So 4 only occurs in that top row. Okay. The student has an Accmeticity of 147, which is between the 75th and 90th percentile. And so 75th and 90th percentile in Accmeticity, that could be the top row or the second row as well. So for that student, it could possibly fall within these two, either the top row or the second row here. Prostate score of 13, so there's 13 could be one of these two as well. Okay, and then based on all, now remember the comprehension was a 4, so that's way up there. So according to the example though, and all of this is based on knowing what just happened with that student. So the student has a comprehension of 4 and you're deciding between these two right here. In this example, they're indicating that they're going to use that first row here, and they're going to use the overall fluency rating of a 4. So the student reads, a student who reads and comprehends. Fluent student, reader who comprehends. Student 2, grade 7 student with a comprehension score of 2. So here's where you see 2 listed twice though. So score of 2 or lower, score of 2. So that's where sometimes that subjectivity comes in, and you need more clarification, and that's where the literacy team comes into play here. So score of 2, so I see 2 rows with a score of 2 located. Accmeticity of 120 between 25th and 50th. 25th and 50th, that is only this one right here. So you would circle that one. And then a Prostate Score of 9. So 9 only occurs here. So we have a score of 2, which could be either one of these, and then the next 2, Accmeticity and Prosody, is the third column. The third row. And according to this, they're choosing the one that says reader who's developing fluency. So for the comprehension, they're going to circle the score of 2. So a 2, then this, and this gives you a reader who's developing fluency. But notice the note though. It says, note, students will not always fall neatly into one of the overall ratings. When deciding between 2 ratings for overall fluency, select the less advanced rating to help ensure that the student will receive the most robust set of instructional support in fluency. And they give you an example. Grade 3 student with a comprehension score of 2. So again, 2 is listed twice here. See that? So this column, this column, I say column, I meant row. This row or this row. Then it says a Accmeticity of 90 says between 50th and 75 for a 3rd grade student. Remember, we don't do 3rd grade, right? Just to remind you, we don't do 3rd grade, but they gave a 3rd grade example. And so that's 50th to 75. So that's one of these 2 up here. So we have score of 2. So one of these 2, one of these 2, and then a Prosody score of 7, which is way down here. It's the very last one. So these 2, and then the very last one. And then it says this: the student reads relatively rapidly, but is not yet demonstrating strong prosody comprehension. So remember, all this is based on the teacher's or the assessor's experience with that student. So based on that, the assessor is going to choose the one that says a reader who is developing fluency. So don't choose the top ones. It says up here, when deciding between 2 ratings for overall fluency, select the less advanced rating to help ensure that students will receive the most robust set of instructional support in fluency. For me, that would be, if they were all over the place, that would be a more subjective thing for me. But just have your teacher discuss this with the literacy coach at your school to determine which one would be the best overall fluency rating for that student. Okay, any questions on this? And Genevieve, yes, you are correct. There's a bit of subjectivity in some of this, but that's where the literacy coach and the literacy department, the district individuals, can help. All right, any questions on anything at this point? Okay. Now, where do you put all this information in? All right, so let me show you. So you've collected all of the data. At the end of the day, once everything is completed, at the end of the day, however y'all do it, then the person doing the assessing will then go to the Google form. And the reason we did a Google form this time was because we wanted all the data in one place. So let me kind of show you what it looked like last year, and then you'll appreciate this a little bit more. So last year, this is what it looked like. And this is what y'all submitted last year. All right, so last year, this is what it looked like. Every school had a folder, right? Remember all that? Arlington had a folder, Audubon Elementary had a folder, Bel Air had a folder, and y'all had to submit all those documents in these folders. So for example, if I go to, let's say Audubon Elementary from last year, they had one folder or one spreadsheet, and this was their spreadsheet. Now I'm not going to open it because there's some names in here, but we had to go through each of those tabs, all those tabs, to get the data for that school. If you go to, let's say, let's say Baton Rouge Flame, same thing. You had to go through each of those. Some of you submitted like 3 pages. Let me find someone. Let's see. Capital Elementary did not submit anything, so there wasn't anything there. Let's go to Cedar Crest. Cedar Crest submitted 2 spreadsheets, so it's very cumbersome. The literacy department had a very difficult time looking at all this data. So this year we decided the best approach so far, and it may change for next school year, but for this school year, we decided the best approach was to do a Google form where all of the information is in one spreadsheet, where the literacy department can then aggregate the data and then support the schools with a plan on how to help students and how to show teachers how to help students that are struggling with fluency and comprehension. So that's why we did a Google form rather than having y'all complete the spreadsheet that you remember from last year and then submitting each of those spreadsheets, because y'all did it all different kind of ways. And as you saw, some schools didn't even submit anything. All right, so let me show you where that Google form is located. You're going to go to the ANet course. The ANet Canvas course. So let me see. I have so many tabs open right now. Let me try and find where that ANet Canvas course is. All right, so I guess I have to sign back in. All right, so to get to the ANet Canvas course, the best way to do this is to go to EBR Schools. EBR Schools. You don't have to go to the district website. Just go to ebrschools.instructor, instructure.com. Go there, and now I'm already in, but what's going to happen to you is you're going to have to sign in with Google. So once you sign in with Google, it brings you to your dashboard. So I'm going to go to the ANet Canvas course. All right, so remember earlier we went to this little part here where it says EBR Reading Fluency information, and then you go here to access the resources. And then it's these last 2 right here. So grades 4 through 8 data tracker, and then grades 9 through 10 data tracker. And you may ask, why are there 2 different links? Well, remember, there are 2 different links because 4 through 8, you have to do a percentile, and you also have to do an overall fluency. For grades 9 through 10, you don't do any of that. So let's look at 4 through 8. So you can click on the tracker here. And when you click on this, you get this form. So let me go ahead and expand this. Let's see. Okay, so you get this form. So the person filling out the form, remember you have to be in Google. So the person filling out the form, your email address will appear. This will be your email address that will appear here. And when you submit, a copy of it will be sent to your email. So you get your email will appear here. You're going to put your name, first and last name. You're going to put the student's first name, the student's last name, the grade level of the student. Remember, we're looking at 4 through 8 here. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a drop-down menu. The student's local ID, not the LACID, because if you have a student that comes in from a private school or a home school or out of state, they're not automatically going to have a LACID. Remember, that takes at least a week and a half to get a LACID for a student. And you need to put something there. So every student is going to have a local ID before they get a LACID. So just put that local ID. You can put the name of the school, and it's a drop-down menu. Although I have to go in and put J.K. Haynes and CSAL in there because I think they're doing this as well. All right, then you're going to put the total words read correctly. Remember how to get that. Total words read correctly. The number of seconds it took the student to read. And remember, you're gonna put just the number 130. Don't put 130 words. Okay, so just put 130. And for this part here, the number of seconds, don't put the word seconds, just put 90. So again, don't put seconds here. Just put 90. Then you get to determine the Acmeticity. So remember, you're getting these from that document. So the Acmeticity is the number of words read correctly per minute. So you just put that number. I did hyperlink, by the way. This right here, it says go here to access the resource. So when you go there, it's that same page you saw earlier, except this link doesn't work because it's an image. I have an image here. All right, so then you go to the next one. So you can determine the student's percentile. So all percentiles are listed here, above 90th, 75th to 90th, 50th to 75, 25th to 50th, and so on. If you need to go back to look at the that part here, it's linked to this page. Okay, let me go back. Then all of you are going to do the comprehension score. So remember, comprehension is either 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the link. You're going to do a prosody between 1 and 16. There's the link if you need to go back to it. And then remember, grades 4 through 8, you have to do an overall fluency. And then there's the rating for those. And then there's the link. And then any notes, now remember, everything with an asterisk is required. So everything so far was required, but the notes are not required. But it is sometimes important that you provide notes about that student in the end, provide notes about that student to help your instructional team, to help the teacher to best support the student. So ANet gave some examples such as it's useful to record patterns and miscues such as didn't know the PH sound, stumbled over most long words, things like that. That may be helpful to support that student or a group of students that are similar to that student that are having that difficulty. And then you submit, and a copy of your response will be sent to you, not to me, to you, because you remember that this is your email address that appears when you log into Google. All right, so that was grades 4 through 8. Then the tracker for 9 and 10 is here. Same thing, you're going to go through all this. Notice as you go through the process, there's nothing in here about about the percentile ranges, and there's nothing in here about the overall fluency rating. So that's the only difference between the two. Okay, so any questions before I go on? Where to locate the Google form and how to complete it? I think it's very straightforward on how to complete it. But I'm hoping you understand the reason why we're doing a Google form and not a spreadsheet like we did last year. it was just all over the place last year, and every school had to put in a folder, and you had all these spreadsheets all over the place. So it is more convenient for the literacy department to help your schools if it isn't all in, if the data is collected all in one spreadsheet. And that's for us, that was the best method we came up with at this point. Now, Amy has some other ideas for next school year, but Amy Edwards has some other ideas for next school year, but for this school year, this is what we're using. Okay, any questions? Okay, now you may ask, well, which students do we do this with, right? Which students do we do this with? Well, let me show you. Let's go over this. All right, so this is going to be in the ANet Canvas course. I have lots of tabs open. All right, so when you go to the ANet Canvas course, everything for reading fluency is located here. So you click on this, and then there's the very first one is the Reading Fluency Implementation Plan. You download it and open it up, and there's the plan. So let me go ahead and expand this. All right, so let's go over this. So this is the ANet Reading Fluency Implementation Plan for this school year. Okay, so notice ELA, we're talking about ELA Reading Fluency. So ELA right here, the diagnostic will be for grades 4 through 10 for identified students. And the window is August 15th through September 30th. Let's scroll down. Summary of, let's see, right here. I'm reading this part here. The ELA diagnostic offered by ANet is non-traditional in that it is a one-to-one reading fluency assessment. Most of you on this call know what I mean by that because you did it last year. Those of you that are new, that means that each student has to be assessed by someone. So someone does the assessing with the student, does all that work, and then you do the process with the next student. So it's a one-on-one process. It takes about 15 minutes. 15 minutes per student. The purpose of this document is to provide a detailed implementation and support plan for the ANet Reading Fluency. Okay, so what is the team trying to do? So the goal is to identify struggling readers for grades 4 through 10. Chantel, Mark, you had a question?
Yes. Where do you go if you don't have access to Canvas? Like,
okay,
with this information?
So, Chantel, your school did not purchase Canvas. So,
No.
So I will send you the document, but you're going to have to somehow find a way to save it in some place. For the schools that did purchase Canvas, and that's all EBR schools. All EBR schools have access to Canvas except the charter schools, unless they purchase Canvas. So if you're a charter school who did not purchase Canvas, anything I send to you in an email, you're going to have to take all of that information and store it somewhere that's somewhere on your side in which you can easily locate. For EBR schools and the charter schools that purchase Canvas, it's located in the Canvas course. So Chantel, anything I send you in an email, you need to figure out how you're going to save it.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Anyone else had a question?
I have a question, Michael.
Yes.
Can our entire team enter the Google Forms, or do y'all just want one person submitting?
Oh, no. It'll be too much. Well, Amy, you're at a smaller school. So, and this is Amy Sylvester, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Amy, you're at a smaller school, so you're going to have fewer students. So if you want to do it, that's fine. But at a larger middle school that could have, let's say, 300 students going through that process, it may be a little bit cumbersome for one person to do it. So if you want to do it yourself, that's fine. If you want to get let's say 4 or 5 people to input it to help you, that's fine as well. It's however you decide to do that. Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, Amy. Any other?
Michael, this is Damage right for 20. You might have said this and I might not have
It's okay.
heard it. How do we know if the students, my question is, when you say identify students, which
We
students
haven't
are you
we haven't
talking
gone to
about?
that yet. That's going to be our next part.
Oh, okay.
No, you're fine.
Thank
No,
you.
you're fine. You're welcome. Okay, any other questions before we move on? All right. Okay, now, so Amber had a question, and that's a good question, which all of you have. Who do we test, right? Who do we test? Well, that's this part here. Grades 4 through 8. Okay, listen carefully. Grades 4 through 8. It's not as cumbersome as it was last year. So remember, last year, grades 4 through 5, all students had to be assessed. This time for grades 4, 5, and in this case 4 through 8, it'll be only these students. Students who scored less than mastery, basic, approaching basic, or unsat on this previous year's spring test will take the ANet Reading Fluency. Mastery and advanced students are exempt from the fluency screener. For 9 and 10, students who scored less than basic, so those of you that have grades 9 and 10, students who scored less than basic, approaching basic, or unsat on 2021-22, the spring LEAP test, will take the ANet Reading Fluency. Basic, mastery, advanced students are exempt from the screener. 11th and 12th graders are exempt from the screener. All right, now, if a student did not take the LEAP test, the LEAP, and when I say LEAP test, I mean the LEAP ELA test, right? Don't look at the math, only look at the ELA LEAP test. If a student scored 30, so there are 3 situations here. If a student scored 30% or less on last year's ELA Interim 3 ANet assessment, that student will take the ANet Reading Fluency assessment. So 30% or less. So you're going to have to go back to the data from ANet last year's. So you have to log into ANet. If you have that student that did not take the LEAP test last year, and determine what that student score was on the Interim 3 test. Okay? If it's 30% or less, the student takes the reading fluency. If both LEAP and ANet data are absent for a student from the previous school year, the student will take the ANet Reading Fluency assessment. So if there's no data available, give it to the student, just to be on the safe side, right? Give it to the student. See where the student is. If an incoming 5th or 9th grade student has taken the state mandated placement test, so remember, for those of you that don't know, so if a student is coming from coming to 5th grade, is coming to 5th grade from from out of state or a private school or a home school, then there's no LEAP score. So those students take the state mandated placement test to help the school determine if that student is ready for 5th grade. So that's the placement test, and all STCs know about the placement test because they have to give it if for incoming 5th or 9th grade students that fall into that category. So if an incoming 5th or 9th grade student has taken the state mandated placement test during the months of August to October 2022, the results of the 5th and 9th grade placement test may be substituted per the previous year's LEAP scores. All right. So I said a lot here. Any questions? So Amber, did that answer your question? At least for your grade configuration?
It does. It does answer my question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? It's a little bit easier this year to deal with. You don't have as many students to do the screener with. And
Michael, this is Jeff.
yes.
When will we have access to the middle school LEAP scores?
Ms. Sampay uploaded the LEAP scores last week, I think. So you can go to J Campus and look up that student, and the LEAP score will be located there.
Okay.
Okay. So good question, Everett. So your STCs now, some of you that are ANet coordinators, you may or may not have access to J Campus, but your STC, your school test coordinator, has access to J Campus. Like Everett is an STC as well, besides just being an ANet coordinator. He has access to J Campus, and he can locate the student's LEAP scores that the student got last year. If you're an ANet coordinator only, not an STC, you're probably going to have to get that information from your STC, okay? Or your guidance counselor. Your guidance counselor has access to that as well. All right. Thank you, Everett, for asking that question, because I was about to forget to mention this. Any questions on what was just stated? Okay. All right. Now listen carefully. Implementation. What roles do team members play? So you have the accountability staff. So that's our office, my office. So we facilitate learning sessions such as what was happening today. Facilitate learning sessions for schools and district teams regarding ANet assessments and platforms. Conduct regularly scheduled office hours for instructional support and technical assistance. So each Tuesday, starting at 9, we'll have office hours. If you can't make it, you know I always record it and put it in Canvas about an hour after it ends. Provide guidance and assistance with data reporting and lead coordination efforts with other district departments such as literacy. We have a good relationship with literacy and Department of Academics to effectively support schools. The literacy staff, since we're talking about reading fluency, the literacy staff collaborate and coordinate training and support to schools with accountability and other divisions, provide job-embedded learning and support to schools as requested or identified as needed for implementation assistance, assist schools with interpretation of data results, and provide guidance on next steps for teaching and learning as a result of assessment data. So at the end of September 30th, when all this is completed, the literacy department will look at the data and then come up with a plan on how to support the schools with reading fluency deficiencies and comprehension deficiencies. So that plan is going to roll out after all this data is collected. Okay, now school teams, that's you. That's your side, the school teams. So listen carefully. This is what you and your school leadership will have to do. And you may remember this from last year if you did this last year. Some of you did not, but most of you did. You're going to create a school-level assessment team to administer reading fluency. You're going to determine scheduling, whether which class periods or which times, when and where assessments will take place. You're going to make appropriate copies of the assessment materials and other resources needed by staff. The timing stopwatches, things like that. Utilize the resources provided by the Accountability and Literacy Office to train staff. So I provided you three videos that you can use, and I spent a lot of hours editing those videos. So I'm hoping that you use those videos. And that's this part here that you're going to give the teachers. So utilize the resources provided by the Accountability and Literacy Office to train staff so that teachers will correctly mark the words that the student missed or struggled with and use this information to input requested data on provided Google Forms. Site ANet coordinators, okay, listen to this, Site ANet coordinators and our backups will provide LEAP results to assist with student identification grades 4 through 10. Now, Everett, who is a Site ANet coordinator, he's also an STC. He has JCampus access. Some of you who are not SECs may not have may not have JCampus access. What I would do is I would ask the principal if I could have JCampus site access, and if the principal says yes, then all you do is go to the district website under links, quick links, and click on SIS, SIS, and then ask for JCampus rights. All right, but you need your principal's permission. And I think SIS is going to contact your principal to verify that what you're asking is what they want. All right. So ask your principal, if you don't already have JCampus access, ask your principal if you can have site JCampus access. Not just teacher access. You probably already have teacher access in JCampus, but you want site so that way you can get the LEAP scores for all the students. The next part, when creating school level assessment teams, it is recommended to utilize staff with ELA and literacy backgrounds. So for example, if you have if you're high school and let's say you have an advanced math teacher who's never done anything with this, a lot of subjectivity will come into play for that teacher. So try and use someone that has an ELA background and literacy backgrounds. Next part, school scheduling considerations such as electives during ELA or literacy blocks, using a second staff member to pull out students while the classroom teacher is leading instruction. Classroom teacher administration during Achieve 3000, that should be 3000, or Dreambox learning blocks. So these are different time periods in which you could pull out students. And here's the information for the Canvas course. So if you haven't, and I think all of you have enrolled in the Canvas course, but you haven't, here's the link right here. We're going to come back to this document in a little while. We're going to come back to this and this. So we're going to come back to this little part in a little while. But before I go on, any questions on what we just talked about? So you have a month and a half. You're going to have to get an assessment team together at your school and figure out when and where, during what periods, you're going to do these assessing. Now you also need to determine, first and foremost, you have to determine which students fall into the category that needs to be assessed. So that's where those LEAP scores will have to come into play. So right now your best friend, if you don't have access to site level JCampus, your best friend is your STC and guidance counselor. All right, next part, monitor and support. How will success be defined and measured? Student completion and recorded data will be tracked and analyzed to inform instruction. So after September 30th, the literacy team will have a plan on how to use that data that's been collected. Success in student growth will continue to be tracked, measured, and analyzed through the ongoing completion of ANet interim benchmark assessments. So when you give for example, when you give the first ELA interim, that fall assessment, if a student scores less than, let's say, 30% on that assessment, go to the go to the reading fluency and see how that student did on reading fluency. Chances are that if a student is scoring less than 30% on interim 1, that fall benchmark, that student's having issues with fluency and comprehension. And so that's where, at that point, you would need to develop a plan on how to best support that student who's having deficiencies in fluency and comprehension. Potential pitfalls. What potential areas or items could cause concerns that require supports and contingencies? The first bullet talks about training. If school needs assistance after reviewing the resources within the above links, they should contact Accountability or Literacy Division points of contact for added support and training. Ongoing office hours have been scheduled multiple times each week to provide ongoing support and respond to questions in a timely manner. So in my case, all of you know you can always call or email, and we also have office hours on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Scheduling, second bullet, scheduling. If schools need assistance with scheduling within the designated window, they should consult with their executive director and reach out to their accountability points of contact for additional assistance. For example, last year there were some of you that needed one more week to do this. You needed extra time. Well, what had to be done was your principal had to contact the executive director, and then the executive director contacted me to get to let me know that y'all needed extra time. And then now remember, when you get that extra time, that affects the literacy department's ability to roll out their plan. So it's very important that we try and do this within the current window, which ends September 30th, because we have to roll out the plan on how to support schools with students that are struggling. Student absences, or you're unable to complete assessments after making every attempt possible. Schools should document attempts to administer the assessment. All right, and next steps. The initial, we talked about this already, the initial ANet Fluency Screener training is today, so that's happening right now. Weekly office hours will be on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. And then all of this information is in Principal Connection. So I put in Principal Connection all those 3 videos that I sent you, all that's in Principal Connection. So your principal, if they go to Principal Connection, should have access to those videos as well. And that's it. All right, so any questions on the implementation plan? I know it's a lot, but let me know if you have any questions. Y'all okay with this? All right, now I want to go back to this little part here. So in one of the videos I sent to y'all one of those 3 videos right here. See this document? When you click on this document, you see this, right? So it says, and this is from ANet. So it has preparing to administer the ANet Fluency Diagnostic. So they tell you 1 week before what to do, 1 week before administration begins. They want you to watch this video, and that is a video of a sample administration. So you click on this. I'm not going to play it because it's in one of the videos, but when you click on this, it shows you an actual administration. So let me just click on it, and those of you that looked at those 3 videos, you will remember this.
Hi, I'm Emma McCandless, and I'm a
And then
opportunity to read the text again, either silently or out
the
loud.
kid
And
is going to
then
read
I
the
will ask you a
text,
couple
and then
of
she's
questions
going
about
to
what you've
mark
read.
the
This is to help
incorrect
me
words
plan
and
for
correct
teaching
words.
next year. You will not get
And
it wrong.
then later on, there's a comprehension part where the student is reading the answering questions based on what he remembers about the passage, and so that's a comprehension. So there's a video on that that you can use as well. So that comes here. Now, some of you earlier, and I forgot who it was, talked about the spreadsheets. So these are the spreadsheets here. I'm just going to say this. These are the spreadsheets that ANet provided last year, and it's still available to you. But I'm letting you know now that if you have a teacher that goes to grade 5 fall and puts all their information here, that teacher or someone at your school has to go and put all that information into the Google form. Okay? You understand that, right? Where must all the information, where must all the data be put? Must it be put in this spreadsheet or the Google form? Will someone answer?
The Google form.
Thank you. Google form. Google form. I would not use this at all. I would not use this at all. It is very simple. It is very simple to determine Accmeticity. You take a calculator out, number of words, read the number of words read correctly minus the words read incorrectly, divided by the number of seconds, times 60, you get a number. And then in that table, it's very easy to determine percentile based on this number. All right, so please try not to use this if you don't, if a teacher does not have to, because I'm afraid what's going to happen is they're going to put all this information here, and it's not going to be put in that Google form. And then you did all that work, and the literacy department will have no date on how to support those students, because the student's name will be here on how to support those students that are struggling. The whole point of this is to help students. Okay, so, and I have so many tabs open, I got to go back to where I was. Good Lord. Okay, so I'm not sure. Give me a moment to figure out. Okay, so we're here. All right, now, and then they have the materials, how to get the materials, which you already know. I want to show you something there. You see this right here that says preparing to administer the ANet Fluency? It is also located in the ANet platform. So if I go to the ANet platform, I'm going to myanet.org. When you go to the ANet, I've got to log back in. All right. I'm sorry, just give me a few more minutes. 6-1. I'm logging in as a, well, I can log in as myself. All right, so let me show you where that document is located as well. And it's in one of the videos, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to go to elementary school. All right, so I'm going to go to Manage Assessments. I'm going to go to Reading Fluency and the Materials. Right here, see where it says Guidance right here, Guidance for Preparing to Administer the Fluency? If you click on this right here, click on this, and notice Belfair has a grade 2. But remember, we don't do grade 2 Reading Fluency, we don't do grade 3 Reading Fluency. It only for grades, for Belfair would do it only for grades 4 through 8. But right here, where it says Guidance, when I click on it, it's that same document you just saw. All right. This video is important. So show your assessment team, whoever's doing the fluency at your school, show them that video just to show them what it sounds like. Now you'll recall in the video they're side by side, but in reality you'll be facing each other, so you won't be side by side. They did a side by side here so the camera can be on both of them, the kid and the adult. All right, any questions? I think that's it. So any questions? Amy or Samantha, do you have anything you want to say? Amy Edwards or Samantha Williams, do you have anything else you want to say before we leave?
Yes, Michael, thank you so much. This was very explanatory, I think very descriptive for everyone. I do want to say that earlier in the chat, I did post, and I'll try to go up and find, I'm going to try to copy it. Oh, I can't copy it. Just scroll up. It was at 10 a.m. I posted a list of names of 4 district staff members and the email addresses that you can email us until you have a literacy coach and until you find out who your contact person is. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And then the second thing, there was some conversation in the chat about student ID numbers. One of the things that I suggest to make this easier, get the office to print you rosters for each class. And then those rosters are going to have the student names and the student ID numbers, which are the EBRID numbers. And then as the students are tested, you can highlight them so that you can indicate who you've completed, but you also have that ID number right there on that page at quick reference. You don't have to worry about asking the kids and putting it in wrong. You can just copy it straight from that paper. So those are my suggestions.
Thank you, Amy. Those are great suggestions. I appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone else does as well. All right, anybody else has any comments? Don't let this overwhelm you. It's easier than last year, and everything is there for you that you need. So do not let this overwhelm you. In the end, it'll be worth it because those students struggling will be receiving support. Okay, anything else? Did all of you sign in? I'm sorry, wait, hold on. Let me just put the sign-in sheet in the chat. All right, the sign-in sheet's in the chat if you didn't sign in. Someone had a question. Go ahead.
I got a quick question. This is Myra Looney from Woodlawn. What can we do if the school is understaffed? There's nobody that we can pull right now because even our counselors are covering a class.
You need to discuss.
I'm even covering a class.
I understand.
The whole day.
Yeah, I understand, Myra. Discuss that with your principal and ED.
Okay.
And I would suggest whoever's covering that class can very well be trained to administer this ANet. If it's somebody, you know, that you feel comfortable with. Miss Looney, as you're covering that class, you can sit at the back of the room as the students are working independently, and you can pull a couple of students a day and assess that class. So utilize those that are covering if they are someone who you feel is able to be trained and able to administer that. So that would help.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Good point. Yeah, Ms. Looney, just use those suggestions. Also, discuss this with your principal. They may have other suggestions as well. And remember, you have until September 30th. So you have a month and a half to get this done. And you're at an elementary school, and you may not have that many students that you have to do this with. So it's just 4th and 5th, and only those students that scored less than mastery at your school for elementary.
I'm in middle school, but yeah, we'll make it work. But
it's still less than mastery at middle.
Yeah.
But and your school, do you have a lot of students at your school?
Yeah. That's one of the concerns that my AP brought up when I had a discussion with her about this. But
and also your colleagues in your cohort, other middle school colleagues here, discuss that with each other, email each other, call each other, ask each other, what are you doing? I'm having this issue. Talking about it with other people at your, I don't want to say level, but in that same situation does help. You get ideas from other people. Genevieve Bajra said, well, let me go back to, first of all, let me go to Elizabeth Romero. Romero said, can district coaches support with testing? Well, you're for district coaches, you're going to need to contact in literacy, Amy Edwards and her team to see who's available. But you have literacy coaches at your school. Now, be careful with the math coaches. You need permission from the math supervisor for a math coach. Remember, try to use people that have an ELA background or literacy background. I know last year that some of you may have used some math teachers. And I know that all of you, for the most part, have a math coach, but you need permission from the math supervisor if you end up having to use math coaches. They did not give permission at this point for them to do this. Genevieve Bajra says, speech therapists often have language background and make excellent administrators. That's true, Genevieve. Thank you. So you probably have a speech therapist at your school that can help with this as well. So all of you have great comments on how to help each other, how to get this done. And just have a conversation, have good relationships with other people at other schools that you can work with each other to help each other. And then Tuesday during our office hours, we could have part of office hours where some of you are discussing these kind of situations. What are you doing? How are you handling this? So we could have this as well for Tuesday's call. All right, anything else? I know I kept y'all over, I think. What time is it? Yeah, I did. I apologize. But I think this was well, again, I'm the one doing it, so I'm kind of biased here. But I think we're off to a good start. Y'all have everything you need. I gave y'all videos. That's very helpful. Um, the videos the videos I sent y'all will probably serve better than you just sharing this recording to them. Now there's some important things in this recording because Amy had a lot of information that she shared. So please go back over the recording, capture what Amy Edwards discussed to share with everybody else. All right, so this recording is also important to capture information from. All right, you're welcome, Genevieve, Cynthia, Miller, all of you, Chantel, Mark. All right, so if you, I'm done. I think Amy Edwards and her team are done. If anyone else doesn't have any questions, we'll go ahead and end it, and I will send this video within an hour or so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, as always.
Thank you, Mr. Dozat.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a great week, y'all, and a great weekend.
You too. You have a lot of things in the chat box.
I see that.
Michael, look at that that drop down box for the Google form you showed us. I didn't see Glasgow. When you 4 through 8.
Okay. And
all right, just let me know. Thank you. You
found it?
No, I'm about to look at it now. I was trying to pay attention before I went back.
I thought I followed Glasgow. Let me.
Okay.
I was looking at it there.
It's there?
It's not there.
Okay, I can go in. I can go in and put it. So.
Michael, neither is Southeast.
Really? Okay.
It might. You know what it looked like?
Oh no, it's at the
like
bottom.
That was elementary.
Yeah, the elementary school is at the top. The middle school is at the bottom. It's not in alphabetical.
We're all the way at.
Yeah, it's not in alphabetical order. But thank y'all. I apologize. Yeah. So
okay, I found it. Thank you.
Yeah, the elementary school is at the top, and the middle school is at the bottom.
At the bottom. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. As always.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great evening.
You too. You too.